and they like do a really big gasp or a scream, and they're like, "Oh my god!" and they're like whisper to their friends, "It's her, did you see her? It's Sophie." And then you're just sort of like, "Do I look? Do I just keep walking? I don't know."
Welcome to Chat Shit. I'm Sam. I'm Aiden, and today we have a really special episode with Sophie Fawns, New South Wales Swifts player. Stay tuned for the giveaway later in the video and enjoy the podcast.
It is cool that you've come on the podcast during such a busy time. Obviously, we know who you are and you don't really know. we know you are the Coringal High School 16 years age champion for cross country.
Also the athletics age champion in the same year.
And Aiden says you play some netball as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
But these were the highlights that we found.
I started playing when I was 10, so started 10 years ago.
And that was in Wagga?
Yes, that was in Wagga for like a school team. Just sort of signed up. I wasn't really keen on netball. Like, it's always that. Like, I've got two older sisters, so you always sort of get dragged to netball, and it's like, go watch your sisters. It's the worst thing ever. So boring for an hour, trying to occupy yourself. So I was like, don't want a thing to do with netball. I don't want to be a dancer. So I did dance for like 11 years, and then pretty much had to decide if I wanted to do netball or dance. So
you think being dragged for an hour was bad? I started playing cricket because I was dragged to my brother's cricket games for like 6 hours on a Saturday.
It's so boring.
Yeah, it is. But the viewers can't think that because we love cricket.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're allowed to go over it.
Yeah. No, we don't actually have any content about cricket except it's a love of mine, like a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're the same with netball. Hopefully not. But.
No.
But like I play a pretty decent level of football for all being soccer.
Yeah.
I know we have to clarify that in this country. Was there ever a time, because I never felt it, that I was ever going to like actually make it, right? Did you ever have a time when you were playing netball? I don't know whether you were making Australian teams from like when you're 17, or 16 even, through like to now 21. Was there ever a time where you're like, I'm actually got a chance at making it?
Yeah, I think I probably didn't really ever think. I never really wanted to play professional netball, probably until I was 14. We went to a Swifts pre-season game, and they were like doing like some round robin kind of thing, and we got to watch it like as an academy. I'd sort of put my hand up for that as well. And realised like that's what I want to do as a living. So then that same year when I was 14, I trialled for my first state teams of under 17s, and then like later turned 15 because I'm born in like the back end of the year. So then when I was 15, made my first state team, and then like made my Aussie squad, and that was pretty much like never ever thought that would happen to me. Didn't think I was going to even make the state team. I was just very much like,
is that when you stopped dancing? Or did you stop dancing
around
then as well?
At 14.
At 14, so as soon as you made that under 17s team, you're like, all right, I've picked netball now.
Exactly.
And you sort of gave up dancing.
Yeah. And then shortly after my 16th birthday, I was invited to join the Swifts for their pre-season training after they just won a premiership. So that was sort of where I was like, maybe I could like professionally make it. Like obviously you're picked for a bit of a reason. I felt like my first state team, I was more of a bench player, so it was very much like, I'm sort of picked as like, maybe just because I'm a country kid, they need like a bit more in there.
More balance or something.
Yeah, like not really getting played. I guess like Aussies, I didn't get picked originally. I was sort of like a reserve and then got slotted in. But it wasn't until later that they were like, you actually ranked quite high in the country, like for a 15-year-old, and then like, we want you at Swifts training, all that kind of stuff. Was that
like a good feeling? It must have been a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I would love to have that feeling.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I'm actually really damn good at this.
Yeah.
Like better than everyone I'm playing, most of the people that I'm playing with.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to play this sport, potentially play this sport as a living.
Yeah, I feel like I still didn't even to the point where like I'd been invited to Swifts pre-season in like 2020, 21, before getting signed, 22 as a training partner. Like even those years I was a bit like, not really sure. Like it literally probably wasn't until this year that I was like, I'm actually good at netball. Like when people ask me, are you good at your sport, when I tell them I play netball, like this is probably the first time I was like, yeah, I'm actually pretty good.
To a few netball games and the atmosphere's amazing. Like is it the Ken Rosewall
arena
that you play in?
Arena. Yeah.
You've seen Sophie live?
I've seen you live a few times. The atmosphere's actually like incredible. It's got a basketball vibe where there's like music and the crowd's always going crazy. After every point, there's announcers over the thing. What's it like actually being on the court with like that atmosphere? Because I know in the crowd it's sort of like pretty deafening, like you can't hear a lot.
Yeah.
Is it the same down there? Like, can you hear each other speaking?
We can hear each other speaking. I feel like it's a different sort of atmosphere in terms of like at Ken Roswell. It's sort of like a fishbowl, so we don't you can definitely hear the crowd 100%, but in terms of like warm up and everything, we can still hear each other on the court. And I guess like the feelings like really good. Like you've got a bit of nerves. Last year especially, I was very like nervous, always like looking out everywhere, like trying to spot your family in the crowd.
And that was your first year.
First year was last year.
Probably having the contract with the Swifts.
Yeah, that was my 2022 season was my first. I was a replacement player, permanent replacement player, and then this 2023 season I was fully like permanent contract, and then 24 like looking forward to 24 season. But yeah, it's like definitely a really good feeling. I feel like this year, once you're a lot more settled into it, you definitely look at it more as like this is at the end of the day just a netball game. And I know that sounds a bit silly to say, especially like when so many people are dreaming of being a professional athlete. Like I feel like at the end of the day, like you block out the crowd, you're there to play netball, and you're like, how cool is it that people that come to watch me play a sport that I like love to play?
I mean, yeah, you're also only 20. I mean, you're the same age as us. I dream of having a feeling where people are like, you're out there screaming, you're like, oh yeah, you're here to watch me.
Yeah.
You're here to watch this team play. They're all like rocked up. They've come in on a Saturday night or whenever the game is to watch you play, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, massive change. So like since 2019, I'd been sort of traveling up like once a week or like staying for 3-week stints up in Sydney and just doing like online school while I was doing year 11 and 12. So that was like quite challenging. So I was like 100% going to move straight after school to Sydney. And then like luckily I got into NSW, so I had something to fall back on with netball as well. But massive change, I feel like, going from the country, even though Wagga's not like country, like still takes you 10 minutes to get anywhere. You can do anything. Everyone sort of knows everyone, to going into like the big smoke where you're like, holy crap, like I don't know anyone, like this is my new life kind of thing. So that was a big change. So as well, like renting, all that kind of stuff, like it's different. Playing sport, you can't actually live on campus, makes it really like hard.
And is your family still all out in Wagga?
Yeah, so whole family, well, my dad and little sister live in Wagga still, and then my 2 older sisters are like in Canberra. Yeah, and like sort of moving around the country a bit more now.
On the netball side, part of your role in your debut season was as a replacement for Sam Wallace, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is like, was some pretty big shoes to fill, kind of.
Yeah.
And did she act as kind of a mentor for you in that way, or what was that like?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like so lucky to have Helen and Sammy in front of me. Like, it's very easy for older players who, when they see a younger player who's obviously, you know, coming to take their spot, like they could easily turn me away and not be very nice or not teach me anything. But like those girls, so grateful to have those kind of people in my team where they want to help me grow and build. And I felt like, you know, to get a contract, you never want to get it by someone else's like falling kind of thing. So it was obviously very hard for me to be like, I really want this spot, but I don't want to do wrong by Sammy because, you know, like, that's how you never want to get a contract. But she was so good in terms of being supportive, and she was like, no, I want you to have it. I want you to take it with 2 hands. Like, you need to work hard, all this kind of stuff, which I guess like was really good to have a mentor, you know, who's been in the game for so long that you can learn so many things off.
And speaking of contracts, that's obviously the most topical thing at the moment in netball and the most important thing. So I'd ask you, because we saw like even today you've posted on your story things about it that we've looked at as well.
Yeah.
And like, do you, I'm noticing like you probably feel like as you gain more influence, it's not like you're someone who's had like a 10-year huge career, except as you get more influence, do you feel like you have some sort of role to play in those disputes, and do you want to tell us about them?
Yeah. Well, so like, at the moment, netball's in an industrial dispute with Netball Australia. So at the moment, there's no collective players agreement. So players aren't getting paid pretty much. So we don't have a contract and no, I guess, job security for 2024 season. So I feel like, with the disputes, although I haven't been in the game for very long compared to those who are like Paige or Maddie or, you know, most of the Swifts team, everyone's got a role to play. And I think it's about like the players standing united, you know, like we feel like we deserve a bit better than what we're receiving.
So it feels like the players are really together in that way.
Yeah, definitely united. And I feel like it's not even about like us players now fighting for this, it's us fighting for future generations, like hoping for them to have, you know, a better quality in the game.
Because you're making personal sacrifices at the
yeah,
moment, right?
and I guess like some things like that happened in the 2017, like in 2017 with cricket. A lot of those players who were fighting then for a new CPA and revenue share are no longer in the game. So they're, it's really about fighting for future generations so that they have a shot at the game.
Yeah, and speaking of the revenue share, we saw there was that offer only in the last, day or so, or a couple of days, for a percentage increase, 11% increase to minimum pay, but that didn't really have anything to do with the revenue share model that the players were actually asking for.
So
right?
there's obviously like a few things that as players we bring to the table that we like ask for and have negotiated, and so that was always in our negotiation. But the main thing that we're fighting for is revenue share. So that's new sponsors coming in, we get 20% of like that revenue share, and Netball Australia gets to keep the 80%. That kind of thing. Whereas I think they want to do they've proposed more of a profit share. So any profit that they make, then they'll share it with us, but we don't get to choose what they do with their profit or money before that. So they could end up not making a profit at all. And we would never see the money kind of thing, which is why we're fighting so hard for a revenue share. But yes, that deal that came out, they've proposed like 11% increase, back pay, which is already things that we were already going to get kind of things. So I guess for them it was, trying to propose something to the public as well, which we don't feel is fair because what we're fighting for is revenue share.
Is there someone driving like this discussion, like a netballer, like a group of netballers that are driving this? Yeah,
so we've got player representatives from every team, so you can have 1, 2, 3, whatever. So normally we've got one player representative and then your captains join in as well. And they go to like a players association meeting, like whenever they want to update. So we've got an AMPA board, Australian Netball Players Association. And they've got a few people on them who are like ex-players or like have been in different boards in other sports. And they pretty much like have meetings with Netball Australia to sort out, like what our negotiations are. And then they report back to our representatives, and our representatives report back to the team. And then sometimes we have like full team meetings. But I guess as a driver, it's pretty much everyone across the boards standing united, like we're all pretty well across what's going on, given it is our sport. Because it affects
everyone pretty hard.
Yeah, definitely. So.
Well, I guess the ball's sort of in your hands. It's sort of like if they don't pay you, then you don't play, and they don't have a sport to make money from at all. So I guess would there ever be a situation where players would consider completely going on strike and not playing at all?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't as players, we play the game because we love the sport. Yeah. So I don't think there would ever be a time where we would, I guess, boycott a season or boycott a game, because at the end of the day, we want to play and we want to train, which is why we're, fighting so hard for this revenue share. We could easily say, okay, we want to get paid, but it's not about the money in terms of that. We've gone 8 weeks now without being paid. So obviously for anyone living in Sydney, that's quite hard. Yeah. And most people have mortgages, some people have retired out of the game because they can't afford it anymore. So I guess in this, it is about money in terms of revenue share, but in terms of standing up for what's right, we're not in it for the money, we're in it because we love the game and we want a future in the game.
I just want to transition back a little bit when we were talking about Sam Wallace, obviously stepping into her shoes for the season. Did you feel a lot of pressure?
Yeah, I think maybe in the 2022 season, it was all about, no one really knew who I was, so it didn't really matter if I sucked, I guess, and there's always going to be lots of talk. Everyone's got an opinion. So I remember seeing before the game, before my first debut game, everyone was sort of the Swifts don't have any talent coming through. No one can replace Sammy, all that kind of stuff. And I remember, talking to Sammy, and I was a bit couldn't even eat. I was so nervous about that weekend that they were you're probably going to get on. And she was no one knows who you are. It's a game of netball, and people are always going to say what they want to say, but you're not here because you play like me. You're here because you play like you. That kind of stuff, which I guess gave me a bit of confidence. And then, there's always, after your first debut game, everyone talks, well, can she back it up? Is she going to be good enough to get a contract? That kind of stuff. So luckily I backed it up. And then, was awarded a permanent replacement player contract. But I guess, at the end of that year, it's between, contracts, it's hard because they've given some percentage of what it's what the likelihood of you playing in Suncorp Super Netball, and the chances are obviously quite slim. Like there's 80 spots in the whole country to play netball, and netball worldwide is played by 25 million girls. That kind of thing, that it's like the chances to make it are so slim, and half those spots are taken by internationals. So I guess for me I'd be very grateful to even still be in the space, like to even just be a training partner. I'll take what I can get. I like really want to move club. Like really found like I found my place at the Swifts. So I was lucky enough that I was given, you know, a permanent contract as part of the 10, in the 2023 season, and then hoping for 24.
And then that game you had, was it the semi-final in 2022? Was it that one we had 7 super shots in the one game? Which game was that?
Oh no, that was this year.
That was this year.
Semi-final.
Tell us about that.
That was our semi-final, prelim final or something. So the week before we had just lost to Thunderbirds in extra time, and I put like a lot of pressure on myself in that game because like I guess no secret that I am put on in the last 5 minutes to shoot those super shots. And I'd missed every super shot that I'd taken. I'd probably taken like 3 or something. So it's a bit like you try really hard not to beat yourself up, but at the end of the day, you're a bit like, as a shooter especially, you're a bit like, well, we lost that game because like I couldn't make a shot. So the next week, you know, that was pretty much do or die for us, whether we got into the grand final or not. And I think they said the last time we won that game by 1, and the last time we were up in that game was like 5 minutes in the first quarter or something. So we had gone literally 55 minutes losing the whole game. And I think like it was in that moment, like again, like Sammy and like my coaches had turned to me and they were like, "You're ready, you can do this, like we believe in you," that kind of vibe, I guess, which is, you know, really helpful. Really, and that's exactly what you need. Yeah, you need someone to tell you, like, say that you are ready. It's not like, "Are you ready?" and ask you a question. It's like, you are. So then like went on, and then again, like once you start playing, all the nerves sort of disappear. Like you've got your teammates to back you, and honestly, like you rewatch that game, and like when you're playing, you're not filled with like any like anxiety or nerves once you're actually in the game. But then watching it back, you're like, I do not know how we pulled that off. I do not know how we like played the ball around for almost 2 minutes in a semi-final in a do or die when we're down. That kind of
just realizing the magnitude afterwards.
Yeah. And it's like, I guess even though that wasn't our grand final, like you still want to relive that moment like again and again, and you finally understand when people are like, when like professional sports stars are like, winning's like a drug, and that's like all you want to achieve all the time. And like it honestly is the best feeling in the world to like win a game like that and like have the, like you could not even hear yourself think. That's how loud the crowd was. It was insane.
Yeah, we had the same feeling in our 6-a-side soccer comp on Monday nights. But so you mentioned that you sort of like have this really niche role, and I feel like in almost all professional sport that comes really naturally with being like one of the youngest players in a professional team. How do you see your like role developing into something more like multifaceted as you develop in your career?
Obviously I don't hope to be just a super shooter for the rest of my career. I think the game's always changing, and you do need to be really versatile. So whether that's like playing goal attack or goal shooter, like you can't be stationed to just one. So definitely, like, obviously you get a lot of experience in games, but in training, just really trying to, I guess, utilise that time to be able to develop different areas of my game.
We read a story, but I want to hear it from you about your initial call-up that you got to the Swifts when you were first called. I believe you were shopping for school supplies when you were first...
when I first made my academy.
When you first made the academy.
So I remember Mum and I were in Office Works because it was like, start of the school year, trying to get all my like stationery and everything. Yeah, as usual. And Mum had sort of like, her phone rang, she picked it up, and I was, kind of oblivious, just wandering around everywhere, and like I had no idea who anyone was. I guess like she was talking to Anita Keelan, who at the time was the assistant coach for the Swifts.
Is that because of your age at the time they had to go through your mum rather than yourself?
Yeah. So I don't even know if I had like actually had a phone then. I probably did, but like probably a crappy one. So they're talking to Mum, and again, like I'm like sort of getting to the point where I'm like, all right, it's time to wrap it up. I've got my school supplies, I'm ready to pay and go home, Mum. She's on the phone. She's like, I'm on the phone, that kind of stuff. And then we like got in the car, and she's like, well, I've got like some news for you. And I was like, no, like, yeah, whatever. Late on me, go on. And she was just like, that was Anita Keelan, who's the assistant coach for Swifts, and they'd love you to be a part of like the Swifts Academy. Like they're just starting up. So we had an NSW program, so New South Wales Institute of Sport. So a few like netballers, there was a netball program, but then it got dropped, and we were pretty much like, well, we've got no idea what we're going to do now, like once you're not in that high performance area. So yeah, like the NSWIS program had shut down. Like I was pretty much devastated because that was my first like, oh, maybe that this is my in kind of thing. And then yeah, to get that call up from Anita and like hear it through my mum that like I got picked to be in the Swifts Academy, and she was just very much like, we really want you like in the team. Obviously you're not going to be able to commit to like the training that we've got here, but we'll get you private training in Wagga, we'll get you a gym membership, all that kind of stuff. Like you just got to put in the work.
Right, so they really supported you for ages now.
Yeah. So their first, like the academy opened up in 2020.
And then did that influence your decision to go to I assume come here for uni as well?
Yeah, do uni in netball, and like to be honest, I would not have thought that I would have a contract like in 2024 or like even played the last 2 seasons with the Swifts. I feel like it was very much like, you know, like having 2 older sisters who both lived on campus, like at uni, and like seeing their life, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do the exact same. I'm going to live on campus, going to make lots of friends. I'll just go to training every afternoon, that kind of thing.
I'm sure it's a lot, not that easy, right?
No, not that easy, yeah. And then didn't end up I missed the application for like living on campus or something. So had to actually find somewhere to rent, and then it was like, who am I going to rent with? And then it was like, then you start getting picked up into these programs, and you're like, oh my God, like, I could never have lived on campus for uni. So I guess like in that aspect, like, yeah, you've got your whole life planned out, and then you're like, oh, something else is happening now.
Still to do 2 courses while you're playing netball with all the training and everything. The games on the weekend where you might be in Adelaide, you might be in Melbourne.
Yeah.
How do you balance all of that?
Yeah, it's definitely quite tough.
Balancing the podcasts, the exams.
No. So in 2022, I did 1 term at uni, and then ended up deferring for the rest of the year because our season was quite condensed. So we were going from like playing in Sydney on a Saturday, then we'd fly to Adelaide, play on a Wednesday, and then we'd fly to Sunny Coast and play on a Sunday. So you'd end up playing like 6 games in a week, 3 games in a week, sorry. So it became like quite intense in terms of like I was never in the state. You were always flying around, so it made it really hard with uni, which is why I ended up deferring. And so this is my like first, technically like second year, that I found like really intense trying to fit around like coming into uni. So I would normally like depending on what time training started, I would normally like go to training, come straight to uni, do my 3-hour lab, go home, then the next day come back, and then do my like shoot, come to training, train till like 6:30 at night, that kind of thing. So, and then it's like in between those times where you've got an off day, it's like being very diligent with your assignments and your lectures, which I've not proved to do this last term, but in the beginning, But in the beginning, trying to be quite diligent, I guess, in that term, in that sense, because you don't have a lot of time, so you got to do whatever you can whenever. So a lot of work in the Virgin Lounge or on the plane, or
So is this degree gonna helping you transition out once you finish with netball?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to do, even though I'm majoring in neuroscience, that's honestly got nothing to do with what I want to do outside of uni. So outside of uni, like once I've finished, I want to do female health and education, and like hopefully go into schools and like help educate, I guess that sort of stuff that like, you know, PE teachers or kids are too scared to talk about. So that's what I want to do after uni, and just like it's good to have something, I guess, outside of netball, to keep your mind off things like being in that sport full time or in any sport full time is very consuming. You forget, you know, that you actually do need a life, because like you said, your career doesn't actually last for that long. And I feel like at the time it does feel like a really long time because you've been in it since you were 16, 17, you know, that kind of age that you're like, oh, I've like played, like by the time you retire at 30, like I've been in the game for half my life. But then you don't realise you've got another 60 years on top of that where you're not playing professional sport, that you're like, oh God, like that was a really short amount of time. Yeah, so you definitely need something outside of netball, especially like to keep your love and passion for the game, because if you're just doing that full time, I feel like it would just become too much.
Do you think you'll always keep some sort of involvement with like say after you finish playing, you'll coach somewhere like in Sydney or back where you're from or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like I think netball's such a great game, not just for like physical activity, but also like connecting with others and building different qualities on and off the court. So I definitely want to stay involved as much as I can. Not sure about the whole like commentating or coaching like a big team or anything like that, but definitely like going into grassroots and helping out at that level. Like I think honestly you couldn't get anywhere without like the volunteers in the game or umpires or coaches or anything like that. Like the amount of kids that I coach now that their parents are like just watching because they're like, no one wanted to put up their hand, so I put up my hand to coach this team, and I've got not a clue about netball, that kind of stuff. Like honestly, without those kind of people, like you wouldn't have anyone to feed into where you are now. So yeah.
Well, this seems like a great time for us to dive into our segment called How Likely. Your task is simple. Just respond with highly likely, likely, unlikely, or highly unlikely. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Great. First, I'm going to get you to pick yourself a little icon, and whenever you pick, you're going to put it on each point. So
Okay.
if you want to pick highly likely, then you put yourself on that point.
Okay.
You got to pick. Either it's just you,
Uh-huh.
or you got a fun one like that.
Getting face palmed. I'm gonna pick just me to
Just you.
so there's no controversy. Yeah.
Okay, we'll jump into the first question. So, how likely are you to finish your career as a goalkeeper?
As a goalkeeper.
As a goalkeeper,
I would like to, but realistically,
could never see yourself on the defensive end.
I would want to, but I just don't
Like
think they would
scoring too
ever
much?
give me a shot.
No. Any other position?
No.
Centre,
I would
attack?
think centre, but I'd look very awkward because I'm so tall running around being a centre. I also
Yeah.
don't think I'd be fit enough for it, so.
And then we'll go to the next one. How likely are you to order the spiciest dish on the menu?
Or probably unlikely.
Not
I do, yeah.
Not a fan of Mexican food?
It's actually like a bit of an inside joke at the Swifts because I'm the only one who's like mixed. So I'm half Asian, like half Caucasian, but I can't really take spice that well. So everyone's a bit like, what the hell?
And then your favourite cuisine?
I eat anything, to be honest.
Anything, as long as it's not too much spice in it. Yeah?
Pretty much. I'm getting better to the point now where if I put chili flakes on, everyone's like, whoa.
Hey, do you go out to the
shit.
team dinners and people make fun of you at all?
Yeah.
Yeah?
A lot.
Rock up to the team dinners, bit
Also,
of
because
chili.
I'm like the youngest, so it's easy to
Treat
be
you like a
picked
kid?
on. Yeah.
Yeah? And then how likely are you to go on a reality TV show? MasterChef,
Whoa.
Survivor, in a few years, Love Island?
No, I get too nervous and I'd be too awkward.
Yeah, I guess it is all scripted. Ish.
That is true. Like, I've thought about it, definitely like The Bachelor or something,
Yeah.
but then I was like, I don't think I could do it.
No? Would you want to be the one
be too
girl or
awkward
the
'cause
guys
I'd
coming
just-
after, or the one?
No, I'd want to be like The Bachelor, so I'm with all the gals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're just hunting the one guy.
But only because I'd like be like friends, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like, to be in okay, no, that's so bad, I'm not gonna say that.
Alright, we'll go to the next question. How likely are you to play another sport, like professionally or not?
Ooh.
Yeah, what sport?
I used to play basketball.
Yeah?
So I think I would have a crack at that. Or I would play Tedball for warm up, so like maybe volleyball or tennis or something.
Did you play
I don't think
basketball
professionally,
before?
but I'd definitely
Were you basketball before netball?
No.
No?
I did basketball a little bit when I first started netball and like played rep teams and all that kind of stuff, and then dropped off again for netball.
How likely are you to play for a team in a league outside of Australia?
In a league outside of
Yeah.
Australia.
Outside of Australia, so
If I
like...
didn't get a contract here,
Yeah?
highly likely.
Right. Then, like, I know you're really early on in your career, but how likely are you to go into, I know you talked about it in the podcast, but go into coaching once you finish your career?
Well, like what level?
We'll start with grassroots, just like the
yeah.
lower level, and then we'll just transition that to a little bit higher.
Slowly
like
to elite.
So you could never see yourself like being an assistant coach or a shooting coach at the Swifts?
Maybe a shooting coach. Okay, I'll move to unlikely.
Yeah, alright.
But definitely not head coach or assistant. No.
Too much pressure?
Yeah, I find it very hard to be creative in terms of like let's not do, like, our coach never has given us the same drill twice.
Yeah.
And I do not know how she comes up with that sort of stuff. My brain just isn't wired that way. So.
Having to think about
Yeah.
every single session. You just
Yeah,
want, you
so
just
I just
want
want
to
to rock up and do it, so.
And I guess
Yeah.
if you're coaching the younger kids, they don't really care what they're doing. You can do the same thing every
Exactly.
time, and no one's really going to
Yeah.
actually,
So.
not going to matter. Well, how likely are you to work in your university degree or science, let's say after your netball career?
I hope highly likely.
Do you know what you want to do?
Yeah, female education, female health and education in schools.
Right, so you go and like run a program and just go around to
Yeah,
different
yeah.
schools?
So hopefully, like, going to different schools and like, have like a program of like research that I've done or like that I've gotten. Again, like hopefully work with like different foundations and go into schools and present it.
How likely are you to try an extreme sport like skydiving or bungee jumping? Wouldn't even consider it?
No,
Skydiving?
I couldn't do Okay, I thought maybe I could convince myself to do skydiving, but I don't know if I could.
Bungee jumping?
Bungee jumping, definitely not.
No, you wouldn't
No.
consider? Would you do it with, like, because I know you can do it in a group of 2 people. Would you do it with a mate?
No.
If Helen asked you to do it?
No? You're on your own, sorry.
No?
My best friend is like, loves doing that stuff. Loves skydiving, wants to do bungee jumping, wants to do all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'll watch.
Have they asked you to do it?
On the ground.
Have they asked you to come with you?
No, she hasn't. She's asked me like to do skydiving and I was like, I can't do it.
Is it a heights thing? Or it's just like, no?
No, well, to be fair, I do get pretty scared jumping off like a 5 meter like diving board.
Yeah?
But I just think, I just feel like I would be the unlucky one whose parachute doesn't work. And
Just completely
I didn't even
just
want to come in
paranoid.
the first place.
And if bungee jumping, you're the one where the rope breaks?
Yeah. No, I didn't even want to come in the first place and now I'm the one who's going to die. That kind of vibe, so.
Okay, well, that's pretty tough. Oh, anyways,
Sorry.
we'll move on. How likely are you to ever live outside of Australia?
Ooh, I feel like pretty likely. Not highly likely because I'm not definite, but I would like to live outside of Australia.
Do you know where you potentially want to go? Europe, South America?
Well, like, ideally, if I didn't get a contract here, like probably London or New Zealand.
The two
So
next
one of
leagues,
those,
yeah.
2 next leagues. I probably wouldn't want to go to like America or anything like that. New Zealand would probably be my second, and then like Europe.
And if you were finished your career, would you ever consider living anywhere else? If you didn't have to play when you're completely done with netball?
Yeah, potentially. I
Or
think
stay here
potentially
with
New
family.
Zealand.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
Still close to the family, but you
Yeah.
get a bit different.
Yeah, it's closer to New Zealand than it is to Perth, so.
Fair enough. And how likely are you to be the one playing the music in the dressing room before the game?
Oh.
I feel like they wouldn't.
Unlikely.
You might want to. They wouldn't let you.
Yeah, I would want to, but the amount of times that I'm like drive with my housemates and I play my music and they're like skip, and I'm like, you've given me absolutely no confidence.
Oh, I get
to play
the
music out loud.
exact same thing. See, a lot of my mates they're into the rap and sort of music. I'm
Yeah.
a huge white girl pop fan.
I love it.
So whenever in the car, whenever I'm driving or someone else is driving, it's not. And
Yeah.
Aiden's not playing music.
Yeah.
No chance he's getting on the thing. But
Yeah.
everyone, I've got about 6 or 7 phones that aren't mine that are linked to my car. So whenever someone gets in,
I love that.
it's their music.
Yeah, we're playing it. I know, and yeah.
Do you have a go-to song?
I actually just got back my I don't have Spotify. I've got Apple Music.
Same.
So I got my
Nice. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
there is another
this
one.
is great.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, so I
someone
got my
just
replay back.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Oh, my top song was "I Don't Want to Be Like You" by Rule.
I know it.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is great.
Would you sing it at all?
No,
No?
sorry.
I think it was worth a try.
It was. No, I probably don't have like a go-to song. I'm getting into like the more like spacey and Lime Cordial kind of vibe now. But yeah, again, I can put together like everyone's like loves going on Orcs, but I hate it. It's too much pressure. And when everyone's like, just hook your phone up in the gym, I'm like, you don't understand. Like I have to curate these 40 minutes like perfectly.
Oh no,
to a T.
I feel that as well.
With
because
allowance for skips. Yeah.
someone's getting in the car and I'm like, oh, they're not gonna like my music. So I've gone and I've scrolled through like, oh, they might like that one, cue that one,
Yeah.
cue this one before they even get in the car.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, yeah.
And then you're like,
this
you
is
gotta
gonna be
cue
good.
extra in case they don't like it. And they
Yeah,
skip
then you
it.
gotta skip.
Yeah, it's too
so
much. So
for a 30-minute journey, I'm queuing an hour of songs.
yeah, and then you're just like, I can't do it. It's too much.
Have you been to any concerts recently?
I have. I just went to Spilt Milk.
Yeah.
The one.
Gonna act like I know what that is. Yeah. Sure.
One before that, I went to Splendor, as in like these are festivals.
Oh yeah.
So Dispilt and Splendor Festival, and then I went to like Harry Styles concert.
Oh yeah, nice.
I'm going to Taylor Swift next year.
Oh, you got your tickets?
Yes,
How'd
got
you
my
get tickets?
It was actually like we went in the pre-sale, didn't get them.
Yeah.
And then Dad got them for us, but he didn't tell anyone except for me.
Right.
But like we'd all been at training, like all our phones are lined up.
Right.
It's at finals time. We're all like lining up. We're trying to concentrate in this meeting, but we're like, is our ticket tag gonna load? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have just one account open? Because I know there were people who had about 10 screens.
Oh yeah,
going
everyone
across.
would have like, if you had like your laptop there, you had your laptop
Yeah.
open with ticket tech and then your phone open, and then everyone had like their own individual phones, and then like Maddie came like 5 minutes later and everyone else was like, guess what? I got tickets to Taylor Swift, and we were like, get out. I hate you.
Did your dad get him through like a resale thing?
No, he got through ticket tech, he got through.
Oh, he just didn't tell you at all.
He was like, at the moment he's like doesn't work. He's like at home to look after my little sister, so we're pretty much like, you can just stay on ticket tech
Yeah.
all day long while the rest of us do stuff.
Well, he got
Which
lucky
he
because
did.
I'm telling you, there were
Oh, so many.
millions of
Yeah.
people that did the exact same thing and got nowhere near.
Yeah, no, we're
So yeah, you can
so
definitely count yourself lucky.
very excited for that.
Now, that's all the questions we have for this
Oh, that was
segment.
so quick.
Thank you for participating.
Okay.
Now back to the podcast.
It is very frustrating though at the end of the year we're like, everyone's at the beach and having fun.
No, I know when we finish.
We've got to be at uni still
Yeah.
in exams.
And then, I mean, I know you're doing netball throughout the year. So, but then for me, when all of your mates go to other unis and they've got a 8-week holiday in the middle of the
Oh my
year,
God, yeah.
and you're stuck with a 3-week holiday, and you're seeing them on their Instagram story. They're in Europe.
Yeah.
They're on the beach, and I'm like, oh, it's not even worth it for 3 weeks. I assume you've been noticed on the streets before. Like, if you've been walking and someone's come up to you and be like, "Yo, so can I get a photo?" Or
Yeah,
can you sign
sometimes.
this?
Yeah.
How does that feel? I can't like I know none of us have that feeling where you're just like walking down the streets, and some kid comes up to you and they're like, "Oh my God, Sophie, can I get a photo?"
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. I guess I don't have that same recognition as like Helen Housby or like Maddie Proud, like those kind of girls, but still like to a degree, yeah, sometimes when you walk down the netball courts or people are like, oh my gosh, like that's her, which is so cool because I feel like when you're younger, that's how you look up to like professional athletes, and to know that you are a role model to those kids. Like, I feel like when you do get to like that certain level, you don't like forget, but you're just very much like the transition happens so like, I guess, well, for a lot of us, like happens so smoothly but so quickly that you like don't sort of notice you rising, I guess, like to where you are now, that you actually forget that kids look up to you like that. So it is really like, especially when I go home to Wagga, like, and kids get so shy, and I feel like now,
Really?
like where I am now, I'm like, don't be shy, like it's fine. But like when I was younger, I'd be like,
Petrified
I'm
to
not
go.
coming near
Yeah.
you, like just stare from a distance, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I like when we were in Wagga, I went back to Wagga with like my friend and we saw these girls like in Cotton On, and they were like sort of looking at me but sort of not, and
You
then
can
it's
tell?
sometimes you're very much like, I don't know if they're just looking because they're like, she looks really familiar, or if
Or
they're
she's
like, oh my
tall.
gosh, that's her, or she's tall. Yeah, like a lot of the time it is just like, she's really tall.
I feel like your listed height must be wrong. What was the listed height? Like
Yeah.
6 foot or something?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
wrong.
I'm
You're a bit taller than
186
that.
centimeters,
Oh, okay,
so yeah, like 6'1", almost 6'2", I
Something
think.
like that.
Yeah. So yeah, these girls like were sort of looking at ourselves a bit like, oh, I like sort of stood next to them, so I was like, give them the opportunity, like if they do know me and they want a photo, like they can say it kind of
Yeah.
thing. And they didn't, so I was like, oh, well, they must have just been looking at me because like I look familiar, or you know how sometimes it's very much like, you sort of look like this person, but I don't really know, like, why would you be here, that kind of thing. Anyway, like my friend and I have walked maybe like a kilometre down the street, and they just like come running up behind us and they're like, are you Sophie Fawns, can we please get a photo? Like stuff like that. That's so cool, I think, like to be recognised down the street, and yeah, get
And then
like, to know that
obviously
you're...
you have to say, no, I don't do photos. There's just too many people.
I'm poor, please. No, I'm joking. No, it is so like, I'm always like, yeah, like definitely we'll get a photo, like if you want anything signed or anything, like that kind of stuff. There is, and like it's always very cool, like as well when you're like walking down the netball courts and you just hear people like you hear little kids that think they're quiet but they're not, and they're like do a really big gasp or a scream, and they're like, oh my God, and they're like
Wait,
whisper
did
to
you
their
see
friends,
us?
it's her, did you see her, it's Sophie? And then you're just sort of like, do I look, do I just keep walking, I don't know.
Do you think before you became I guess a pro, you had some sort of expectations that have been different, or was it sort of just like it just happens naturally and you never really thought about the transition too much?
Yeah, I think it just happens so naturally,
Yeah.
and especially like I guess netball's not as well known as like your AFL or your rugby. Like, so for me personally, like if I saw someone from NRL or AFL, I would have no idea who they are. So I wouldn't even like bat an eye kind of thing, which is why I sort of expect like no one really recognises netball, so I don't expect to go, you know, down the street or to uni or anywhere and get recognised. Like I always feel it's very like lucky when you do get recognised. Whereas I feel like for those kind of athletes, like especially in the male-dominated sports, that it is a bit like everyone knows them a bit more and like they can expect that. But again, different sport, different, everything, I guess. So.
Okay, I want to know, when you rock up to like the first lab or first tutorial at uni, if you were to rock up, and you're doing the introductions at the start, and they're like, I'm like, I'm Aiden, I'm studying data science, this is what I do this outside, and you might say an interesting fact. Have you ever gone, I'm Sophie Fawns, I play for the New South Wales Swifts, professional netball, and everyone's like...
No, never. No. I always
not
say
give it
like...
up?
No, I don't know, I always find it's like a very weird topic in terms of like, I don't really want to come off as like showing off or anything, so I'm always just like, I do like support work outside of netball as well, so I always say like, my name's Sophie, so Bachelor of Science, and like for work I'm a support worker for like Wardability and Disability Support Service, that kind of thing, instead of like saying that I play netball. And I think the one time someone was like, what do you do like in your spare time? And I was a bit like, I don't really have spare time. And then I just said like, I play netball, and they're like, well, who for? And then that's when I said like
I'm
the
stuck.
Swifts. And that's when you say like, I play like for the Swifts, and then like the amount of times though that you hear people go like, who are they? Or like, what's that? And then you're like, it's like a professional netball team, and they're like, so what's professional? Like, you play on TV, like do you get paid? All that kind of stuff that you're like, one day I want to get to the point in the sport where it's like I play professional netball and people know what it is. You don't have to say, I play the equivalent of the NRL Manly Sea Eagles. That kind of thing. Like I'm on TV, I get paid, that kind of stuff. Like
It is the third most popular sport in the country.
As in terms of people playing.
Yeah.
In terms of people playing,
but not a lot of
It's just
people
getting
know
it on
that
TV.
professional netball's a thing.
Something I noticed was, how the Diamonds just absolutely tore up at the World Cup this year? I felt like from my experience of someone that, I don't know, probably follows other sports more than netball and doesn't get a whole lot of netball media through my own searches, I felt like, compared, just reading up myself and seeing how strong and amazing they were, like it was so drowned out in what the Matildas were doing because it was at the same time. Did you feel like that was like a combination of unlucky timing, but also maybe media could have done a bit better? Or
Yeah, media definitely could have done a bit better. I think like, well, for us, there's a documentary that's just come out like for the Diamonds of their World Cup series, and it's a bit like, well, everybody knows the Diamonds win, like why would we watch this documentary now? Whereas I feel like what the Tillies did so well was they released that documentary of like the players and of the Matildas, and like everyone watched it, and then everyone was like, yeah, I'm going to watch the World Cup. And like, I think the way that their games were set out as well was like so good that everyone had access to like be able to watch, and everyone wanted to watch, and it was all anyone could ever talk about. But at the same time, like I guess, Diamonds were sort of in the shadows, and their competition was something like 8 days long, and they played like 5 games kind of thing. They're a bit like, you would never do that to a professional sporting team, let alone someone who's like playing for their country, that they're squeezing that into a week kind of thing. So I felt like media probably could have done a bit better, but again, I guess like that's just a learning curve, and then it just like Tilly's did it so well, and they are, I guess the pinnacle of like what female sports should be, like the way that people started to change their, I guess, language around it. Wasn't like, did you see like the like women's football game? It was like, did you see the game? That kind of thing. And I love that
it was definitely such a big shift.
And I like to see that you like start bringing out like female sport and like women's sport. It's like just sport. And I guess that's what I sort of want to happen with netball, that you don't have to say like it's a female like dominated sport, or I play, or like, even like the AFL girls, they don't have to say I play AFLW, they can just say I play AFL, or I play NRL, not NRLW, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely felt that shift. I remember at the start when I was going to the games, I was like, I'm going to watch the Women's World Cup game between South Korea and this, and then at the end I'm like, I'm going to go watch the World Cup final.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that shift. And I know you got a couple of players at the Swifts that played in the Diamonds team. Did you ever talk about that with them when they came back? How like the lack of the games being televised?
So I live with Sarah Clow, and like I live with like two of the other girls from our team. And yeah, so Sarah was gone for pretty much the whole month. Like, so we played our grand final in July, on like the 8th of July or something, and she stayed in Melbourne and the rest of us went home, and she didn't come home till like mid-August. She was like on camp and at World Cup for like that whole time, which was insane. I don't know how like those girls do it. And yeah, like we was a bit like, oh, like there wasn't much advertisement, like, and I guess as well it's kind of hard because in Suncorp, like you've got the super shot, you've got roll-in subs, you've got timeouts, like it makes the game a lot more exciting for viewers, like people want to watch because you never know which way a game's going to go. But at international level, it is back to your basic netball where everything's worth one and there's no timeouts, no roll-in subs, all that kind of stuff. So it ends up like if you're winning, people are like, well, they're going to win, so they switch off the TV. Like I definitely think there needs to be something a bit more so that we can like attract that kind of audience, or like make the games exciting, and whether that's like having stuff like Constellation Cup where we like first New Zealand is like second in the world and the games do become quite close. But a lot of our viewership, I guess, comes from in-person games. So I think as well, like trying to build up the broadcasting aspect of it so that we can like build the game and want people to watch.
Do you feel aspirations to play for the Diamonds eventually, or was that sort of like a dream as a young girl, or was that not really it?
Yeah, I definitely want to play for the Diamonds one day. I think as well, like seeing, you know, your teammates who play for them and, you know, the pride that they have like to represent their country is something that you want. And especially like being part of the Aussie camps and everything, like you can see like how the pathway develops and like that you could get to that, I guess. So, but again, it's like a team of 12 who's picked out of your pool of 80 players, which does make it like, so you've got to be best of the best. And I guess it's hard that you've always got, you know, 2 other people in your team who's your position, let alone across the whole league. So that becomes like quite hard, but yeah, definitely aspirations to play for the Diamonds one day.
And then with the media attention that you obviously do get, maybe directly after games, positive or like obviously sometimes it's challenging or could be negative. How do you deal with that?
I feel like I definitely try to stay off social media, especially after games or before games. Sometimes you can't always ignore it, especially when you're scrolling on Instagram and it comes up, you know, just like on the Suncorp page or something, and you can't help but click the comments and read it and all that kind of stuff. So I found like in 2022, when I was a permanent replacement player for Sammy again, like before my debut game, reading the comments of people saying, well, there's no talent coming through, like no one will ever play like Sammy, that kind of stuff. Like the Swifts have basically lost their season now, and she did it round 1 kind of thing. So it was obviously you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And then in 22 I was in the media a bit in terms of like, there's a lot of like cyberbullying or like harassment, that kind of stuff going around. I'm not sure if you saw, there was like a TikTok video that went viral.
I haven't seen that.
No.
I'll have to show you guys after this. So there was that video that literally went viral. It was like all over the news, ABC, like all those kind of platforms. And it was about me and like this defender who's a bit older than me. And then obviously, yeah, like some stuff went down and I was in the media a lot for that. But I was very like, that's when I sort of was told like, don't go on social media, like try and stay off it. So like I stayed off TikTok, I stayed off Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And then when it sort of like died down a bit, and then it was like we were playing in our last round of the season and we missed out on making the finals by 1 goal, and we ended up losing that game by 1 goal. And then again I was in the media because I got a rebound, and instead of taking the shot I passed it out for a super shot and we missed the super shot, so we ended up losing the game. So I was in the media a lot for that it was just like, this rookie's got no idea what she's doing, like she's had a brain fade, they need someone more experienced in the team. So that kind of stuff, again, I was in the media and I was like, well, this is like pretty crappy. You never want to be in the media for negative things. So I think this year, like I had a big focus on whether it's good or bad, like I'm not going to touch it, I'm not going to read it. So even like after our semi-final and, you know, like I think it went all around Instagram that Helen was like, Sophie Fawns is my hero or something. Like Helen's like the best of the best, like in our league kind of thing.
So maybe I will read social media now.
Yeah. So once I saw all that, and I was like, I'm not even going to touch the comments, because like you read the good stuff and you're like on a high, but then like you don't realise like how much that also affects you as much as the negative stuff. Although it's affecting you like in a more positive way because you're like, oh yeah, like this feels great and stuff. But then it's like at the end of the day, like you still got to do. Like we've still had a grand final we had to prepare for. Like this wasn't the grand final, we didn't win. We just made it to the grand final. So it was sort of like you don't want to read any of that, and like obviously people have now put high expectations on you for the grand final. And it was like as positive as those comments are to read or what people would be saying, like you don't want to read it because that puts pressure on you for the grand final because you're like, well, I've got to back it up again, that kind of stuff. So it's better I just stayed off it this year. Yeah, I didn't read anything.
I guess to all the younger netballers that are aspiring to be in exactly your position, playing for a professional netball team, looking to want to play for the Diamonds, what sort of advice would you give them? Like if they're maybe 12, 13, 14, just playing netball for their local team?
Yeah, I would definitely say like, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche one, but to make sure you're having fun. Like at the end of the day, doing professional sport, you're in it for well, I guess like in terms of life, you're in it for a little bit of time, but the time that you're in it, like you're in it full pelt. So I think like honestly, if you're not having fun, there's no point doing it. Like you never want to turn up and be like, oh, I don't feel like training today. Like obviously you're gonna have those bad days, but when it becomes quite consistent that you're like, I don't really want to do this anymore. There's no point, putting yourself through that if you're not enjoying it. And then probably my second one would be like not to compare yourself. I feel like it's so easy when you're going up through the ranks to be like, well, there's only 2 sort of spots in every position in the court that you're a bit like, I'm up against a lot of people for this, and everyone's career progresses at a different amount of time, so there's no point like comparing yourself, being like, well, they made it at this age and this age, and that's, I guess, like because I have made it at such a young age, I don't want people to look at me and be like, oh, I'm so unsuccessful because we're the same age as she's playing professional and I'm not, or that kind of stuff, or they're like, she made it at such a young age, like how did she do it, like that kind of stuff. I don't want people to look at me like that. I know when I was going through the state teams, like there was definitely like this one girl who's a goal attack as well, and we're like, you could tell we were being put up against each other like for who's going to get the last spot in the team,
which is a little awkward.
Very awkward. That you're like you could just tell because every time we played, like she would always be on the opposite team in the exact same position as me.
So they really want to see.
We'd always get pulled off at the same time. Like we'd switch teams to like play with the same players, like that kind of stuff. So then obviously in that kind of moment, it's very hard not to compare because you're like, I'm literally being put up against this girl to get a spot in the team. And
the coaches are making it pretty obvious.
Yeah. So then for that, I guess you're like, I don't want to compare. Like, and then for me, I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to get it because like she's been in the pathway since she was like 12 kind of thing, and now we're 15, 16, there's no way, I've got no more experience than her, like, she's better than me, all that kind of stuff, that I was like, well, I'm done, like, that's it, kind of thing. And then I ended up getting picked in the team over her, which, like, to me was very, like, quite shocking, but I was, like, very grateful at the same time. And then, like, I didn't want to compare myself to anyone else after that. Like, I don't want to compare my journey to Helen's. Like, she also started really young and also did the trip like 3 hours every day kind of thing to go to training, and like ended up making her first like England squad at 19 or something, like playing for her country. And then to me it's like there's no point comparing myself, that why haven't I made the Diamonds at 19 either, that kind of stuff. Like everyone's so different that you don't want to compare, because that also kills your joy for the game, because the whole time you're just focusing on other people, not yourself.
But did you have when you were younger, did you have a role model in netball? Like who maybe your game was potentially based on?
Yeah, definitely like Helen.
Yeah.
Like when I first saw her play, that was
your eyes light up whenever you say
yeah,
her name.
that was like, I want to play professional netball. So cool that I get to be on a team with her now, and I feel like all of last year was just like, oh, she's so cool, like, and I'm just like 18, I don't want to do anything wrong. And then like last year at our like team camp or something, she was like, you're being so weird, like we're teammates, stop being weird. And then from then it's like been really nice to be able to like play with your idols, I guess. And then so she was probably who I wanted to like base my game off and who I looked up to the most. But like Amy Parmenter's probably someone who I was like, that's who I want to be. Like her off-court behaviour, her community engagement, like who she is as a person was like, I want to be like that. So she's probably who I looked up to in terms of like who I want to be like, but Helen was definitely like my netball idol. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you got kind of lucky that she was at the Swifts.
Yeah.
The amount of times you've mentioned, and clearly you're a big fan of her. What was it like? Because obviously you probably, when you made this Swifts team for the first time, you were probably a huge fan, and obviously you're still a huge fan, but now you're a teammate.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself acting a little bit differently around her?
Oh, definitely. Like, when I first met her in 2020, I remember I was like so shy again. I was like 16. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, I don't want to say anything. I'm just going to sit here and like enjoy being in the moment because I might never like be back here again. And then, yeah, last year was very like, again, sort of awkward because I was like, these are my teammates, but you're not like really my teammates. And then like, I feel like as soon as she was like, stop being so weird, like you sort of like flicked a switch and now everyone's like, can you shut up? You're so annoying. And then they're just a bit like, oh my God, like you've just got too much like going on now. I feel like last year, they were very much like, you're so quiet. And then this year they're like, oh my God.
She's comfortable. She's comfortable
yeah,
now.
exactly. They're comfortable.
From where you were when you were in the under 10, the Goannas?
Yeah.
The under.
I thought it's a really long club name.
Yeah, Mangapla could be dinner, you know.
Yeah, I didn't even want to take a punt at it.
Yeah.
From there to where you are now, celebrating your 20th birthday 10 years later with the entire Swifts team and your role model.
Yeah.
What's like, just sum up that entire journey.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Even I remember staying at like the girls' house. So there's like the Swifts house, which was at the time Maddie Proud, Sarah Cloud, Maddie Turner, and like Sophie Garvin. And like I stayed at their house and I was like, whoa, this would be like a dream to even like live with these players one day. And then like now I've taken Maddie Proud's spot and I'm in the house. So it's like kind of like that, I guess I would like said on when I was with them, I was like, guys, manifesting's real because look.
It happens.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely there was like a point where like at my birthday when I think like Sarah, and it's like on my Instagram or something, but like Sarah took a photo of like everyone from the balcony and I was like, there is no way that everyone I looked up to, like, they were all playing in that preseason game when I decided I wanted to play professional netball. Like, there is no way that I'm playing with, like, they're at my house and I live with them and they're, like, celebrating my birthday, that kind of stuff. But, yeah, it's honestly, like, so surreal and I feel like everything happens so quickly that it is, like, times like this where you do get to sit back and reflect on it that you're like, wow, that actually is, like, pretty cool.
And it's pretty funny that we're talking about like your whole journey and you're younger than us.
Yeah.
It's like you're 20 years old, just like really just starting your career. So we wish you all the best with everything to come as well, because there's way more to come than has already happened. And we're really grateful that you've come on.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me.
Finally, I'm sure what everyone's been waiting for in this podcast is the giveaway. And we've asked you to actually sign 3 posters for us so we can give them out to the fans. But Sophie, can you tell the audience how they enter the giveaway?
Yes, so to enter the giveaway, you got to like, subscribe, and comment what you're most looking forward to in the Swift season in 2024.
And in 2 weeks' time, when this podcast is released, we'll be putting all the fans who entered in a random selector, and we'll announce the winner on our Instagram ChatChitPod. We'll be in contact with the winners about getting the posters shipped out to you. Thank you for listening.